Hi everyone, Badbert Management Tavis here, the internet's busiest hockey nerd with the best nose in the game. And today we're doing a new review of this project the Buffalo Sabres have been working on for the last 6 years, titled the Jack Eichel Era. This is a new project that they've been working on since about 2015, 2016. So let's just jump right into it. The Buffalo Sabres started this project in 2015 where they had just an absolutely putrid, just awful, gross record where they put up 54 points, which should have been good enough for last place in the NHL and the first overall pick if it wasn't for those pesky Oilers and their dog, or lack of goaltending, rather.
Hey, you! Don't you be talking about my Oilers like that. They won all those cups with the Gretzky and Curry. You heard?
But anyway, they ended up with the second overall pick, which landed them center Jack Eichel. This part of the album starts with a field recording, essentially, in 2015, which was little more than just background white noise with no real structure. And yet, it didn't even do what it intended them to do, which was get the first overall pick. So the first track on this thing is starting off not great. But along with Jack Eichel, they get a new shiny head coach who definitely wasn't run out of Pittsburgh because he couldn't get essentially an all-star roster to compete in the Eastern Conference. But Eichel's rookie season, that track was actually a great one. Eichel debuted with his hot new track, 24 goals. Pretty nice. It was raw. It was rough. I mean, it's a debut track for a new guy on the scene, so you can get a little bit of hiccups now and then. But otherwise, I think this track really did its job. It came out hot. Came out with some fire, impressed the rest of the league, and unfortunately it's after that we kind of see things start to go downhill. That debut track actually had a lot of raw, hot, young talent on the scene, like Eichel, Reinhart, some older but still kind of new to the scene pieces like Robin Lehner, and let's not forget veteran center Ryan O'Reilly, widely considered one of the best two-way centers in the league at that point. So that track came out, 81 points, not bad for a rookie season. Things are looking up in Buffalo. And then it's fortunately after that we see the tracks on this thing start to get intensely repetitive.
Hey, 81? Good number. That's what I got on my IQ test. You understand?
The next season, really the only bright spot on that track is Jack Eichel. The rest of his supporting cast and features on that track don't really go over so well. And the track subsequently after, it's kind of the same sound, just worse, if you can believe it. They start off with 81 points in that season, and every season after, it had less and fewer points, and farther out of the playoffs. So it's after a couple of tracks that we actually see the record label themselves start to step in, and they end up giving us two new producer credits on this thing. We have Phil Housley and Jason Botterill on the tracks here. They don't really do a great job as far as producers go. They don't really do a whole great thing, and we can see that really come to a head with the track 2018 Offseason, which is just a spacey, noisy, ambient piece about the leaving of Robin Lehner and Ryan O'Reilly. It does a great job of making you feel absolutely depressed, which is what it must feel like to be a Buffalo Sabres fan all the time. And after that, the production on this thing, it feels like a shell of its former self. And really, again, the only bright spot continues to be Jack Eichel on these tracks. Ryan O'Reilly actually almost entirely quit because of this track, because of his time on the Buffalo Sabres project, if you can believe it.
I'm really glad he didn't wind up quitting. He would have won all them Stanley Chalices and Conn Smith trophies, you know?
It's after this, actually, that we get a breath of fresh air on this album with the track Jeff Skinner Scores 40 Goals. He comes out with a hot debut for the Buffalo Sabres. This thing is a banger. Although when you really start to listen to it over and over again, it's really only the Jack Eichel feature on this track that really makes it worth listening to. And to nobody's surprise, after this hot debut from Skinner, the rest of his appearances on this album are not really even worth talking about. In fact, towards the end of the album, his appearances actually started getting cut from the songs as he was scratched repeatedly and sent to the fourth line to play with guys like Okposo and Zemgus Girgensons, who, by the way, he never lived up to the hype from his debut either.
You listen to me. You leave my boy Skinner alone. He's a good hockeyman. Good hockeyman.
So we have a lot of pieces on this record that start to feel disconnected and disjointed, and they don't really connect together. And if you can believe it, it still only gets worse with the rest of the tracks on this album. And the real shame of it all, after all, is that the Buffalo Sabres actually paid Jeff Skinner $9 million to basically contribute one good track to this album and then do nothing at all after that. Since then, they've added even 2 more producer credits on this thing, if you can believe it. We still have more producers producing a subpar album. That was Ralph Kruger and Kevin Adams. Their contributions to this thing really aren't even worth talking about because, again, since that hot debut track, it's only gotten worse and worse and worse for these guys. But really, the only saving grace for this whole piece was Jack Eichel's progression on this thing. He started off raw and rough. There's a lot of edges to his work. Since then, he's gotten only better and better. He's producing more and more for the team as the team around him falls further and further apart. The ending to this piece, the 2021 season track featuring Taylor Hall and Eric Stahl, although, again, they paid Taylor Hall $8 million to appear on this thing, and his feature's not really even worth discussing. It's basically non-existent, and he's not even on pace to score 20 goals this year. Eric Stahl's feature on this thing is not bad. It's a little rough, but you're seeing that veteran presence on the mic, that veteran presence coming in hot with the young guys. Some of the other issues with this particular track, though, is that Ristolainen's features are apparently on the chopping block for this thing. I guess he's either going to be traded or moved, so his features on this track might be completely removed by the end of the season. And the real unfortunate ending to this album comes with the fact that Jack Eichel actually doesn't feature for the rest of this track. He comes in the first minute of this track, and then the rest of his bars were apparently cut as he was hurt and hasn't played and isn't likely going to play for the rest of the season. He's also been placed on COVID protocol, so I don't think he's going to be spitting hot bars when he can't breathe. That being said, if Jack Eichel does end up leaving this project, I really can't see the rest of it even being worth listening to for quite some time. Reinhart, Ristolainen, Dahlin, their work on the ice and on the mic here really isn't worth listening to if Jack Eichel's not here. Overall, consider this is basically everything I just didn't want to see from Jack Eichel's career to this point. This piece is murky, it's hazy, at times it's really not even listenable, and at times you can't really even discern a direction for this group. With the opening track, you can kind of see that young, invigorating energy coming off of these bars, and then things just get worse and murky, and then people leave. They haven't really even sniffed the playoffs since that debut track from Jack Eichel. So, yeah, it's just been it was a rough listen from start to finish. It's been a rough go of things, and my only hope is that Jack Eichel actually leaves this project and moves on to something better where his talent can actually be used in a meaningful way instead of just being used as background noise for this awful whatever this is.
Hey, even if you don't support my boys, I will. Go Shimbers, go!
So that being said, really on this project, I think I'm feeling a strong 0. It's like a strong 0 to a light 1 on a good day. Transition. Have you given this team a watch? Do you love them? Do you hate them? What would you rate them? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Leave a like if you like. Please subscribe, and please don't cry. Leave a comment in the comments. I will see you guys in the next one. Over here next to my head is another video or the link to subscribe. Light and Lamp Podcast, Jack Eichel, Buffalo Sabres, forever.